Now in today's video, we're going to look at the best wildcard draft ahead of game week 31 and let you know which teams and which players you need to be focusing on with your wildcard for this game week. Now, of course, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to hit 13,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your amazing support. So, like I said, if you do enjoy that content, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Where I want to start off first is taking a look at the fixtures, the double game weeks, and of course, the free hits. This wildcard is predominantly going to be built for FPL managers that are on the strategy of wildcard in 31, look to play some sort of chip either in 32 or 33 with their bench boost, then of course use that free hit in game week 34 to obviously get the players out that have the doubles in 33 or 32, and of course then, you know, have players that actually play in game week 34 with the free hit. If you want to see another one, I might post another one over on Twitter, so go and make sure you are following me over on there as well at FPLTom_. So let's take a look at the fixtures then. This is of course the calendar coming from Ben Krellin. Make sure you go in and drop in him a follow as well on Twitter. I'll leave a link to the Fantasy Football Hub website where of course you can go and access this amazing sheet and look at all the fixtures upcoming for the next few weeks. So of course with this wildcard in mind, we are going to be looking at teams that predominantly double in 32 and 33. So I would be heavily suggesting backing the likes of Crystal Palace with of course a back-to-back double game week on the cards. Newcastle as well with their double game week. I think people like Isaac are going to be imperative. Arguably a really good captaincy option as well for double game week 32. Arguably puts himself in the running as well for game week 31 with Leicester away as well. We're of course looking at that double game week in 33. We've spoke about Palace already. I think the likes of Mateta, Munoz, Eze are all going to be very crucial players to be kind of selecting over the kind of the wildcard period. We're of course going to be looking at Manchester City players. Now it looks like Haaland is going to be out for 5 to potentially 7 weeks, so that would probably rule him out of double game week 33 and not really make him an option. So I think that's probably an area you don't have to consider. You are of course going to be looking at other alternatives that of course we will discuss when we get onto the team itself. Villa are an interesting one. They've got this double game week just starting after they've obviously competed in the Champions League. It's a big match against PSG for them. Of course, I do feel like a lot of their eggs will be placed into that basket, and I feel like if they progress through that round, I think they'll probably fancy themselves in a semi-final. Maybe they can kind of claw themselves a final. That is probably going to be where their main focus is going to be lying. So you do feel like if you were to go for some Villa assets, there potentially could be some rotation in the double game week, or maybe even the Southampton fixture in game week 32 as well. So maybe kind of the side of caution on going too heavy in terms of Villa assets. Same goes with Arsenal as well. Obviously, Bukayo Saka was back last night. I think he's going to be a very popular player on the wildcards for game week 31. Again, my concern, and I outlined this in the transfer targets video as well, I did say that there's a lot of games coming up. Arsenal for the next few weeks are going to be playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday over the next few weeks. So it's very important that you don't probably go too heavy again on probably Arsenal, and they've got quite a few defensive injuries now as well. There could be quite a bit of rotation over the next few weeks. That is what I'm trying to allude to, especially probably heading into that Ipswich fixture. That or the Brentford one does feel like that could be one of those fixtures where Saka maybe doesn't start, and like I said, is prioritised more for the Champions League fixtures heading into that big clash, or the both big clashes with Real Madrid, of course. So that is just one to potentially err on the side of caution. Of course, we are still waiting for information regarding potential doubles for Forest or Brentford. We've not heard anything as of yet, so heading into game week 31, I probably still would just be looking at the ones that Ben Krellin has highlighted, of course, in the orange. Then with our free hit, of course, that is going to kind of nullify game week 34, but the beauty of wildcard in this week is we are going to be set up for the next few weeks. We're not going to have to worry about game week 34. It is meaning then that you are going to be looking to build as many transfers as possible heading into 35, 36 and 37, with of course potential doubles and blanks on the horizon for those latter stages of the season. That's the beauty of playing the wildcard right now. It gets the team set up. It means that you're not going to have to use too many transfers over this period. Look to build as many as possible and then use them in game week 36. One of the teams that really does interest me with that game week 36, of course, is going to be Manchester City. A potential double there, as you can see, of Southampton and Bournemouth would be excellent, especially alongside the City, Everton and Aston Villa. So I think if I was on a 31 wildcard, I would probably be suggesting looking at a triple up in terms of Manchester City assets. That, of course, was the fixtures. Like I said, if you want to go check that out for yourself, make your own analysis or kind of just take a look at the fixtures and do whatever you want, I will leave a link to the Fantasy Football Hub website in the description. This is completely free and available for anybody to go and take a look at. So please, like I said, go and take a look at it. And let's head in to the wildcard team itself. Now, before we head into today's wildcard team, I do just want to say that this section of the video was, of course, filmed before the games on Wednesday night. So if any of the players do, of course, pick up injuries or suspensions, I will, of course, put my replacements down in the comment section. So this video is still very, very true and very apparent. Of course, if you've got any suggestions that you feel I missed on the wildcard as well, let me know in the comment section. Let's start off then with our goalkeeper and defensive pairing. We're going to start off first with David Raya and Areola as our goalkeepers. You could, of course, go for Martinez, but the reason I wanted to keep that Aston Villa spot open, we've currently got kind of two within the squad, as you'll come on to see, one of them being Konza on the bench. The reason I didn't want to go for Martinez was I wanted to keep that spot open purely down to the fact that I think a lot of people will, of course, be looking to go Isak to Watkins in game week 33 if Aston Villa do get that double up. I feel that is going to be a very popular move. So, of course, with our wild card, I don't think you want to potentially shut off that as a potential option. Areola still has a pretty decent fixture with Southampton at home in game week 33. So, of course, if you are planning on playing the bench boost in that week as well, still a very, very well-rounded week to, of course, get yourself in for. Raya and Saliba are in there because Arsenal are still, despite conceding last night, one of the best defences for XG conceded in the league. If you look to the 11FI data as well, it has them as the top projected team for the next 5 or 6 game weeks as well, for clean sheet data. Of course, if you want to go and check out 11FI's work as well, link to that in the description. So yeah, I definitely think it's still worth some investment. I think the injury to Gabriel, though, will of course have a big impact on their defensive numbers, and I do feel like players like Saliba could potentially be rotated out of a couple fixtures. I don't think that's out the kind of realms of possibility, to be honest, because of course, like I've spoke about in the last section, that Real Madrid fixture kind of slammed between the next few fixtures. Obviously, Arsenal are going to have a lot of games coming up. If they're without Gabriel as well, you do feel that they're going to be quite light defensively. Of course, they've got Ben White coming back who can slot in at centre-back. They've got Kivior as well, but I do feel like maybe Saliba comes off early in one of the games or potentially even sits out one of the Premier League games, just kind of if Arsenal are so focus on those Champions League fixtures as well. Raya will definitely start all of the Premier League games, so you're at least getting some coverage with the Arsenal defence if Saliba is benched. Dan Burns in there, and the reason that I've gone for him over Livramento, Botman is going to be out for, I believe, 6 to 8 game weeks. So I think that makes him a pretty good option. Of course, at 4.4 million, there's not too much to split between the two either in terms of underlying data as well. The only thing that I would say is slightly off-putting about Dan Burn is the fact that he's already on 8 yellow cards, and this is already being filmed before, of course, the game week 30 fixtures, so he could have picked up another one tonight. That would put him on 9, and of course would be 1 away from a suspension as well, which isn't, of course, ideal with the double game week very much pending for Newcastle in game week 32. Gvardio's in there, and I spoke about Manchester City. Definitely worth some sort of consideration in terms of defence. Do you go for Gvardiol? Do you go for Kuzanov? You've also got Ruben Diaz as well. I think if you really wanted to, and you were kind of put off by the Gabriel injury and think that's going to affect the Arsenal team, you could actually go for the double up in terms of Manchester City defence and look, like I said, at that double in 33 and the potential double in game week 36 as well for them. I definitely think that's going to be a move that a lot of people are going to be looking towards. But again, do you want to bank on double City defence with, of course, maybe like a Marmoush or a Foden in the side? Probably not, if maybe Haaland could be available for that double game week in 36. Again, leaving yourself open for future opportunities as well. That might be something that you do, of course, want to go for. Munoz is in there, 0.25 expected goal involvement per 90 is absolutely ridiculous. This guy massively passes the eye test. 8 goal involvement so far this season. Double potential back-to-back double game weeks. No real kind of further explanation. Konza's in there purely again for the double for Aston Villa. The game week 32 fixture of Southampton at home. Of course, if you were looking at a potential bench boost in game week 32, he could be a decent option there. With, of course, him having a pretty decent fixture of Southampton in game week 32. If, of course, you feel the bench is looking ridiculously strong for that week as well, you could always go down that route. But, again, my concern would be maybe some Champions League rotation. But I feel like Konza is one of those players that is one of the first names on Unai Emery's team sheet, and I feel like you can't really say that with the other kind of fullbacks in Cash, Digne, Diassi. I just don't think it's kind of confirmed that they're definitely going to play a lot of minutes, where I think with Konza, with his versatility to play right back and centre back, definitely has that within his locker. Let's move on then into the midfield. Sarr for me gets the nod ahead of Eze. However, if Eze has a really good performance tonight, there is definitely the budget within this team to of course upgrade Sarr to Eze if he wanted to go down that route. But I really like Sarr as an option. I think he's been exceptionally good over the past few game weeks. If you look at his underlying data as well, has been absolutely smashing it out of the park. And again, we're pretty much going to be looking for the Triple Palace. I think the definite two assets that you want from Crystal Palace are going to be Munoz and Mateta. That third option is either going to be double up in terms of defence, or it is going to be a choice between Sarr or Eze. I've got Jacob Murphy in there ahead of Anthony Gordon. If you look at the course of this season, their numbers aren't too dissimilar in terms of underlying goal involvements and goal involvements this season. And I don't really see what you're getting for Anthony Gordon's 7.4 that you're not going to get for Murphy's 5 million. So that's the reason I've gone for that. There's also the doubts around whether or not Anthony Gordon is actually going to be available for game week 31 and for the Leicester fixture as well. Of course, he's coming back from suspension. He's of course suspended for game week 30, but there was comments made by Eddie Howe that there is some sort of bruising around his ankle. Whether or not that's going to clear up by the time of the weekend, we don't know. Of course, the fixture is on Monday, so there is that potential chance that it could clear up and he could be featuring in game week 31. But like I said, there's not too much to split between Jacob Murphy and Anthony Gordon for me right now that justifies spending that extra 2.4 million. Next up is Mohamed Salah. I think he's second over the next 5 game weeks for predicted points, which is absolutely ridiculous considering there are no double game weeks coming up for Liverpool over that time period. He just feels like one of those players that you're going to have to just have in the team, pretty much just hoping that he does kind of, goes a little bit quiet when you don't, of course, captain him in the kind of weeks coming up with Isak in 32. Of course, looking at double game week players in 33. Bukayo Saka is in there after obviously returning last night, scoring as well. So again, returning in some regards as well from an FPL perspective. I think he's going to be a very popular player on the wildcard for game week 31. Obviously, the people that went for him in game week 30, we were unsure whether or not he was going to start or even feature last night. He did come off the bench, but again, though, like I said, is there going to be some sort of expectation around managing his minutes for the remainder of this campaign? I think there probably is. And like I said, with those Champions League fixtures and the fact that Arsenal are going to be playing Saturday midweek, Sunday midweek over the next 3 weeks, I do think that maybe there might be some managing of minutes for Bukayo Saka, and maybe in that double game week 33 fixture of Ipswich, we might actually see him potentially get benched or see, like I said, reduced minutes, which is not really what we want for a player that a lot of us probably will be looking to as well, captain in game week 33. Rodgers is in there as well. I think, again, similar kind of situation applies with him and Saka. A lot of Champions League football coming up for Villa. Again, they're going to be playing Saturday midweek, with, of course, Champions League tie against PSG. They've got a lot of midfielders, though, that could kind of course rotate within these competitions, and I do feel like Rodgers is probably going to see the best minutes out of the lot. That's why I've selected him. However, if we did leave that spot open and maybe went for a different player, you could, of course, analyse which ones have got the best minutes heading into game week 33, and maybe somebody like an Asensio or a Rashford might actually be a better pick heading into that game week. Moving into the template front three then, Isak, Mateta and Marmoush. Of course, you've got that captaincy potential with Alexander Isak for game week 30, and of course for game week 32, I do feel like he's probably going to be the most captain player amongst active managers as well. He's currently got 24 goal involvements, and I only expect that to increase with the positive fixtures coming up, and of course double game week as well. You've got that switching ability, like I said, with Ollie Watkins within this side in game week 33 to switch to his double game week as well. Mateta is one of my favourite players over the next few weeks, back-to-back doubles. Why would you not go for this guy? Not the easiest fixture in game week 31, not compared to game week 30 where you got Southampton. Brighton have actually been pretty nifty in terms of defensive numbers this season, but still, the back-to-back doubles make him completely worth it. Then we move on to Marmouche. Of course, we'll wait and see how he performs. Maybe he's not going to be the guy up front. Obviously, I'm filming this before the games in Wednesday's fixture. But you feel if he has a decent fixture against Leicester, definitely going to put him in the shop window. And a lot more people are, of course, going to be eyes on. I think around my rank, he's already at 77% effective ownership heading into game week 30. You do feel like if he puts in a good performance, he's probably going to be close to like the 80, 90 mark. Not really heading to the past 100, purely because people aren't going to be looking at it in terms of captaincy for this game week, but you feel heading into 33 as well, if he starts to hit the ground running, could be a really, really good option for captaincy heading into that game week. That is my game week 31 wildcard team. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 31.